Hello, everyone. This is Thinking to Think, the critical thinking podcast where we analyze topics such as civics, history, culture, philosophy, politics, and current events through a critical thinker's lens. I am your host, the social studies educator, Michael Antonio Aponte, also known as Mr. A. Every Sunday, we will have a new episode within these topics, as well as occasional special guests and recorded lectures with my students. So please subscribe, share, listen, and let's build a critical thinking society together. In today's episode, I want to focus on basically a strategy on seeking the truth. Now, you'll have news coverages and social media outlets that will, and I'm quoting this, fact check, and there's organizations that are fact checkers that will nitpick and do semantics and what have you in order to determine on a better outcome that they see fit. And what I mean by that is the question Cui Bono. This is something that it's a legal term. It's Latin. It basically means who stands to gain. This is a powerful question, and for many people it goes into this rabbit hole. You know, a lot of conspiracy theorists, they look at, that's like their question that makes them conspiracy theorists. But it doesn't escape the fact that you do lead towards the truth. And that's why this episode is dedicated to those that love the truth. When you watch the current news or whichever outlet, opinion pieces, bloggers, do this strategy if you're seeking the truth. Ask yourself, Cui Bono, who stands to gain? Especially with sources that are anonymous. I would say be very critical of those, because depending on the information you're getting, if you ask that question, who stands to gain, the credibility significantly drops depending on the answer. Now, this doesn't mean a generalization also. Like, for example, my country stands to gain, or my people stand to gain. That's generalization. Be specific. Ask yourself who stands to gain from that group. Okay, if you can narrow it down, who stands to gain from a smaller group, you'll lead to a significant answer, whether it's an organization, a specific organization, or an individual. So, generalizations, try to avoid it. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to give you two examples. Example one, we'll look into finance. If a known hedge fund manager goes on CNBC to speak negative about a stock or a company, and it's just that one negative thing, like, no, there's no company that's perfect, there's no balance sheet that's flawless, that shows, year after year of substantial growth without some hiccups. There's nothing that's perfect. If it's too perfect, then obviously it's you have to raise some questions. And having said that, imagine a hedge fund manager going on CNBC and nitpicking on that one negative, and and the stock is a publicly traded company, and that leads to the price of the actual stock to go down, and it temporarily drops. You have to ask yourself, who is to gain from that drop? Now, another example would be if a known insider, let's say quote unquote insider of a presidential cabinet or an elected official, leaks negative information that may or may not be true, and with no evidence to support the claim, who is to gain from that elected official's downfall? And this is one of the most important questions as a critical thinker. You need to be able to analyze this. Now, I've seen many times where even I've fallen into that trap, and we're all human. We all make mistakes, and we need to ask that question, because let's say, for example, that news coverage, going back to the hedge fund example, the hedge fund manager, there was an example there was a scenario of that happening, and the hedge fund manager actually ended up buying in what was called a dip, meaning when it was going below the trend of that stock, that temporary drop. And those hedge fund companies walked away big. We're talking billions of dollars. We're not talking a couple of thousand or a million, billions of dollars. Another example would be going back to the presidential. The conclusion was we have a new president. And I'm talking about like the Twitter, New York Post censorship that happened regarding Hunter Biden. Now, I'm not saying that, it doesn't matter who you vote for as far as the previous election, because of the fact that regardless, if you love the truth, you should have had the opportunity to look and see who stands to gain from that New York Post. It ended up being factual. Now they're having conversations about it in the media, but they try to squash it during the election. So seek the truth. So this is one of the most important questions as a critical thinker, because it not only opens up the analysis and query, but it also allows you the opportunity to come up with a reasonable conclusion. Another reason to use Cui Bono as a strategy is to check your own emotions. If you can answer who stands to gain from a claim and be emotionally content, you have revealed a bias on the matter that you may not have realized you had. Let's go back to the example again. Did you look into buying the stock at a value price? Did you short the stock? Did you hate the company's moral values, or were you invested in the long term and your fear made you sell the stock at a loss? These are, if you ask Cui Bono and you use the 4 steps that I mentioned in the previous episode of critical thinking, you can make a sound decision on the matter of the stock market. Going back to that hedge fund manager on CNBC. Now, as far as the politician, again, did you disapprove or support that politician? Depending, and this is crucial, depending on your positive or negative reaction to the known insider information, your emotions will determine where you lean. So if you can claim, I am neutral, and the whole Hunter Biden scandal with Twitter and New York Post made you like, it happens, then you may have an unrealized bias in you. Okay? We are all susceptible to this. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying you're perfect. But we must realize that we are all susceptible, and we are all emotional creatures and a creature of habit. But critical thinkers must take that necessary step back and ask, who stands to gain? Cui Bono. This was a short episode, but I think it was equally important that I wanted to talk to you about. And excuse the background. I feel like I have to apologize every single episode. And a little housekeeping things. I know I haven't been as consistent as I should be. I've been working a lot on the book on critical thinking. I had to take a step back. I wouldn't even say step back. A step to the side from the book to write a journal that I'm planning on submitting for review, for peer review. And then we have like spring semester midterms coming for my students in the civics and history classes. So it's been a little bit difficult as far as trying to keep up with the podcast, but I'm gonna try my best, keep these episodes going, and again, be part of this conversation. Submit your questions or comments or suggestions on what you want me to dive deeper into. I'll be more than happy to look at any and all comments, and also please share, subscribe, review, hopefully all 5 stars. If not, if it's not 5 stars, you can just, you can forget reviewing it. It's okay with me. But all kidding aside, please, I have zero marketing. I live off a teacher salary, and that's okay. I'm content with that. You don't go into education to get rich. I'm totally fine with that. But I would love to spread this message of critical thinking. Excuse my child in the background. I'm watching her while I record, and she's very happy and excited about whatever she's watching. So thank you again for listening, and I hope to hear from you, and I hope you're excited for the next one. Take care. Thanks for listening to Thinking to Think with Mr. A. If you like our show and want to know more, check out my website in the description, or please leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, whichever platform you heard this episode. Please do not forget to share and spread the word. Join us next week, where we will continue the fight to build a critical thinking society. Thank you, and have a beautiful week.